Okay, so when you get to the wheel, again, this is where you're going to spend some time. And there's a lot of fairly unique things to this bus, but we just need to get the generalities on it. Again, pattern, going to start at the front of this one, going to do in front of the wheel, then we're going to do the wheel itself, and then we're going to move behind it. Again, take your time, look at everything as you're talking. So, and you do not have to physically get in there and touch any items, but point when you're doing it. That way they know that you're, somewhat familiar with what's going on. So when you look down, you shoot down in here, first thing that you're going to see towards the front is going to be the exhaust system. When you look at the exhaust system, again, you have to have the proper phrasing. So you're going to look for any signs of wear, tear, corrosion, or soot that would indicate any type of leaking from the exhaust system. Make sure that it's securely mounted with brackets and bolts. Again, the terminology needs to be there. The next thing that you're going to see that stands out on this particular bus is going to be the frame. You're going to have to mention the frame, wear, tear, corrosion, no improper welds. The welds, anytime you're talking about metal, you can throw it in on exhaust. There's really no such thing as an improper weld, but you can mention it. You won't get dinged. Next thing you're going to see when you're underneath here is the leaf spring bracket. Again, you're going to have to go with securely fastened with brackets and bolts, no signs of wear, tear, corrosion. Attached to those brackets are going to be the leaf springs. Again, you're going to securely mount it with brackets and bolts, and you're going to check for cracking on the leaf springs. Make sure that you mention that. As you go back on that, you can't see it very well from here. But we're going to go into the rear axle or the rear differential. You don't have to get into any specifics on that. Securely mounted with brackets and bolts. On the inside, this is going to have, this particular bus is a disc brake bus in the rear as well. So it's going to be the same terminology on the front as it is in the rear. So you're going to check your brake lines for any signs of leakage, any signs of cracking, any deterioration, wear and tear. Your brake pads, you're going to have to mention those. If you want brownie points, you can mention they need to have a 1/4 inch of material on them. Brake caliper, you're going to check that. Again, check it securely mounted with brackets and bolts, no signs of leaking. You can work from that point. The next logical item would be the wheel. Again, the wheel, you're going to check the inside of the wheel, check for any cracks, any damage to the inside of the wheel. Make sure that the seat is proper on the wheel. Tires, you're going to check your tires. Again, working from the inside out, you're going to just logically start with the tread depth. Go ahead and you probably should mention that it needs to have a minimum of 2/32 of tread on there. They want you to use the phrase that it has proper bud spacing. These are not bud wheels. You can say that. The most important thing is that you're going to check in between your duals for any kind of debris or anything stuck in between your duals. Then you're going to check the outside of that wheel, the inside of this wheel, and just kind of work your way out. When you get to the outside of the tire, you're going to want to say that you're going to check the outside of the tire. You're going to look for any cuts or abrasions on the outside of the tire, any sign of wear and tear or excessive cracking. Don't have to mention date codes or anything like that. You're going to check your lug nuts. You got to make sure that you're going to check your lug nuts. You're going to look for any rust streaks or any shiny metals that would indicate a loose or worn lug nut. You do have to mention your hub seal on this. There is no visible oil indicator, but you're going to check for any signs of leaking of any rear differential fluid coming out of your axle seal. You're going to check your valve stems on both of them, and again, brownie points, you would use that to check for proper inflation of the tire. These tires would require a minimum of 120 psi. So I don't know that technically you've got to state that. Brownie points to do it. Learn it. You need to know it anyways. If you move more to the back, this particular bus has an air ride suspension in the rear. So you would say that you would check the airbag. Check for any signs of leaking. Make sure that it's securely mounted with brackets and bolts, no signs of wear, tear, deterioration. And you can also add that I would listen for any air leaking that would indicate maybe a problem with the air suspension. Rear shock absorber would be the next one. Going to check your rear shock absorber, make sure it's securely mounted with brackets and bolts, and you're going to check for leaking on that. That's primarily what they're looking for on the shock absorbers, is for you to state that no signs of oil leaking from the shock absorber. Again, pattern, move back, check your mud flap, make sure your mud flap is securely mounted, proper distance from the ground. So that kind of concludes this area. Again, that is specific to this bus, but that most likely you will be training on a very similar bus. So we're just going to go over the generalities on this one. Okay, so again, we're almost towards the end of this. You're going to want to go ahead and indicate you've got your fuel door, make sure that your fuel cap is on, make sure that there's no signs of leakage. You're also supposed to mention it on the fuel tank as well. On this bus you can't see it, as long as you mention that you are going to look for any signs of leaking fuel and that everything is securely mounted with brackets and bolts. You'll be fine. You don't have to crawl up underneath there. So again, reflective tape is clean and clear, free of obstructions. Your reflective dots, and that's where one of the things I forgot is you have your amber reflective dot in front of the wheel, and you have your red reflective dot behind the wheel. You'll need to mention both of those items. Clearance lights, again, as you're going back and you're looking, red clearance lights behind the wheel, amber clearance lights in front of the wheel, the rear wheel. No, it's not part of the test, I don't believe, but is required by the state, is our identification on the side of the bus. You can, again, brownie points. Hey, I'm checking that the bus is properly identified, the labeling is clear for the school district. This side of the bus, that will get you covered. There will be a few things that we're going to kind of touch on when we go to the other side that are bus specific, that we'll throw in there, or not visible from this side. So on this side of the bus, there are going to be some certain items that are not present on the other side, certain items that are bus specific. Start off with on the electrical panel. You're going to want to point out the electrical panel. Again, as a reminder to yourself, if you're looking at the electrical panel, you can even at this point mention that you would check for spare fuses. Don't know if they'll count it or not if you were to miss it on the interior, but it never hurts. You do not have to open this panel. The phrasing that you're going to want is you're going to check your electrical panel, make sure that the door is securely fastened. You're going to open the panel, look for any signs of fraying wires, any signs of arcing. Those are the words that they want to hear when you're checking an electrical panel. Corrosion is also a good one, but the arcing and frayed wires are specific words that they're going to want to see. This is the battery box on this bus. Again, you would check for any signs of corrosion, make sure the batteries are properly secured with brackets and bolts. You're going to look for any signs of, and this one's kind of an odd one, but you're going to, again, any signs of arcing, any signs of corrosion, or any signs of leakage, because the batteries do contain a fluid. So anytime there's a fluid present, leakage is the word that you want to use. And you'll want to make sure that your battery terminals are covered and tight, I think is probably what you're going to look for on that one. So again, electrical panel, your battery box, you don't have to open them unless you want to. They may tell you to stop if you do. Your stop arm on this, again, is going to be a bus specific item, but again, you're going to want to make sure that the bus arm is securely fastened with brackets and bolts. Your lenses are clean, clear, no cracking, and free of obstruction. Your stop sign is clear, clearly visible. The reflective tape is in overall good condition on both sides of the stop arm, and you'll want to mention both sides. Again, you don't have to pull it out and show them, but you do want to let them know that you realize that it's on both sides of the stop arm. You'll check that operation of the stop arm when you do your light check, so you don't have to mention that. You just have to mention that it's there and appears to be properly working. From this side, it's going to be a lot easier to see. Benefit you again if you bend down and look. use your eyes to kind of remind you. On this side, again, you have the frame, which we talked about on the other side, but I forgot when I told you about the frame was improper welds. So again, perfect opportunity, thinking the whole time, hey, I forgot to mention improper welds on the other side. When I'm looking underneath here, I'm going to remember, hey, no improper welds on the frame. Also the drive shaft, you can't see it from the other side. You can mention it when you're on the other side, but again, if you're looking, it'll be a good reminder. So the drive shaft needs to be securely mounted. It needs to have the safety hoops on it. Also, you should say that you would check the U-joints on it. Check that it appears that they have proper lubrication and that they're securely fastened with brackets and bolts. As far as other bus specific, again, take the minute to step back, take a look at it. When you're ready, you can say this concludes the inspection of the side of the bus. They may ask you if you're done, but take your time. Just, you know, step back, give it a one more look over, and make sure that you've got everything that you need to get. So that should get you.